This is Maurice Jones-Drew, and you're listening to the What's Bruin Show.
You're listening to the What's Bruin Show, part of the What's Bruin Show network, with your hosts, Jake Berryfield and Mike Regalado, and occasionally some friends, talking all things UCLA sports. And now, it's time for the What's Bruin Show.
Well, hello, Happy New Year, and welcome to the What's Bruin Show. I am your host, Jake Berryfield. I'm joined by my good buddy, Mike Regalado from Bruin Report Online.
What is up?
Big Mike.
How you doing, Jake?
I'm good.
Haven't seen you in forever.
I know, it's been a while. Not since we saw Jamaal over in Burbank, our little holiday get-together.
That was fun. Good. First off, they have cheese curds there. I've been looking for cheese curds in Los Angeles for the longest time.
Yeah.
And I might have gone to that place. What was it? What was the name of that place again?
It was just the Yard House.
Yard House.
Available
I've
everywhere.
probably been
Many Yard Houses.
to one Yard House in my life. Gotta go again. Not only was it was good company too, good beer and snacks, but they were playing some bangers on their video screens.
Absolutely.
D-Light and The Cure and Joy Division. I was like, what is this?
Fun. Yeah.
Sprinkle in a few like 80s hip hop. I'm like, this is awesome. So yeah, I got to go back to that place.
I was suggesting that we should go to like some like unique LA hipster bar or Tam O'Shanter or something, but Jamaal was like, let's go to the Yard House.
That's
and
a
it was
good idea.
easy, and it was,
It was, yeah.
It was very easy. And so it all worked out fine, and I'm glad. And I'm glad we met up with the good old Jamaal.
Yeah.
And now he's back in Arizona, waiting for the heat to come back. And but that's okay. But it's the What's Bruin Show on the What's Bruin Show Network. Thank you for your support. Twitter and all that. It's at What's Bruin Show. Email the show, what'sbruinshow@gmail.com, yada, 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 yada. And there's a hotline, 805-399-4WBS.
Sucker Rain and Troy.
Sucker Rain and Troy, indeed. And I think they stole my jacket, Mike, by the way. I've had my signature Nike sweater with the white stripes along the shoulders and the pink Nike swoosh. I had that jacket for 20 years.
Error?
It's probably by far my favorite piece of clothing I've ever owned. I went to their holiday party last week, and I haven't seen it since. And I think I left it in the Rain and Troy studios, but I asked Michael Castillo, and he's like, no, it's not here. He's like total like crickets. Where's my cricket noise? Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, where's my sweater, Michael? He's like, so I'm a little worried about it. I might have to like go to his house, get a warrant, search warrant on his house.
I would
break down the door or something. But anywho, yeah, you can call the hotline, and that's fun. And we have some calls about the Gonzaga game to talk about, and then we're going to talk about some women's basketball. Mike's happy about that. We're going to talk some men's basketball, which I already said because of Gonzaga. We're going to talk a little football. The portal's closed for now, right? Closed-ish. And we kind of know a little bit more about what the UCLA's roster is going to look like. So we're going to talk about that today. And then we'll do a What's Bruin to get out of here. So, Mikey, everything good?
Yeah, it's been like I said, haven't seen you, haven't done a proper show in studio in probably like a month or something like that.
It's been a while.
But it was the holidays, and before we actually,
it's been a while.
It's been a while.
Thank you.
Before we go on, I do want to give a quick shout out to Kathy, who spotted me at the UCLA game against who were they playing? I think it was Michigan. She said she likes our podcast, and I said thank you very much. So I asked her name. I wanted to give her a shout out because that was really cool.
Mike, do you know if it's Kathy with a K or Kathy with a C?
I do not. I was down getting a Coke, during trying to do it during the timeout, so I can rush back to rush back to the media table, and I look up, and she was up in the stands, like halfway up the lower bowl. But I'm like, oh. Hi, how are you?
Oh, nice. That's good.
So thank you, Kathy. Yes. And
here's a shout out to all Kathys with a K and all Kathys with a C, and also all Kathys with a Y or an IE at the end. Just cover them all.
Exactly.
Yeah, good job.
We are the only show that consistently covers both men's and women's basketball in Westwood, as well as the football. And it is we're well into the off season. Are we though, Jake? We still have 2 semifinal games. I kind of like this. I don't like that. I don't like that it's dragging out so far, but at the same time, I kind of do because I don't want college football to go away. But UCLA, they are clearly in the off season right now, and they're making some moves. So yeah, we talk about all that here.
The UCLA has exhausted my football battery, so I'm only marginally paying attention to the playoff stuff. I really don't have an appetite for it, and I
Really? I was on top of all of them.
I just had a lunch with the Godfather Jim Bendat and Trojan Dave, and they were kind of surprised at my lack of interest in. Like, I'm watching the scores and seeing what's happening, obviously, but I'm just like not the only. I've watched more of the game I watched the most of was ASU's almost victory over Texas, and I was like, go Sparky the whole time, and I was very disappointed when Texas didn't pull out. And then, and then I was paying it. I had the Oregon Ohio State blowout on the TV, and I looked up and I'm like, how in God's name ended up 34-0? But that's about as much college football playoff as I've watched so far, and I think I'm going to keep it like that because I know, like I said, the Bruins kind of used up my whole football battery for this year. But it's recharging. It is, and the portal helped recharge it a little bit. But Mike, you said that we're the only show that's talking any women's basketball
consistently.
And why is that? It's because Mike Regalado.
Because we're awesome.
Well,
it's not just me.
Just that,
you all joined in early on. Like, this was like 8 years ago where we really started.
The bottom line is, has Corey Close been on a whole lot of UC podcasts?
No.
She's been on ours.
She has.
You know, does Mike Regalado want to talk women's basketball?
Yes, I do.
Mike Regalado.
Because to me, it's just basketball.
And if it's important to Mike,
it's good basketball.
If it's important to Mike, is it important to Jake? Absolutely. If it's important to Mike and Jake, is it important on the What's Bruin Show? Are we going to talk about it?
Hells yeah.
And you know why?
Why?
Because we don't freaking have to pay attention to somebody telling us what we got to talk about. You know why? Because we're going to talk about whatever the fuck we want to talk about.
Hells yeah.
And you know why that is?
Power to the people. No, that's not it. But, you know, I was listening to John Lennon earlier.
It's because the What's Bruin Show is more fucking punk rock than you.
What's Bruin Show
is more punk than you.
That's
you
what,
know?
that is, yes, we definitely are.
And it occurs to me that, you know, we're starting a new year. It's 2025. We've been doing this since 2013.
Yep.
Believe it or not. I don't know why sometimes. And sometimes
I know, right?
why.
I think about that. I'm like, damn it.
Sometimes I feel like I'm losing my motivation. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, let's talk. All I know is when I'm talking to this microphone, talking to you, I am enjoying myself. And that's pretty much the reason why I still do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes in the last 13 years, we've had thousands and thousands and thousands of people listening to us.
Yeah.
Like literally. And then other times, not that.
Yeah.
You know, and
I blame Chip Kelly.
I really don't. Yeah, Chip Kelly's where is it? You son of a bitch. He's going to have a.
Chip Kelly can kind of be a dick.
He's going to win a national title, and it's pissed me off. But to stay on target with the point is, you know what? I enjoy our show because we can talk about women's basketball if we want to. And who the fuck cares? We can talk about men's basketball or football, or we can talk about our vacations. Yeah. And we're going to do it whether you're listening or not. So we are more punk rock than you.
The What's Bruin Show
is more punk than you.
Oi, oi. You know who's not punk rock?
Who?
Bruin Bible. Bruin Bible?
Are you getting on them still?
Not punk rock. You know what, Mike? You're a reporter for Bruin Report Online, and we appreciate that, and that's awesome. And Bruin Report Online is super cool.
Hi, bro.
But is Bruin Report punk rock? I don't think so. Bro? No. James Williams, my guy. I love James Williams. That guy's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know.
You came with the list, Jake.
USA Today, whatever. Is that punk rock? Hell no. You know? I'm just saying that, you know. So
I love it.
We're here. It's 2025. Mm-hmm. We're going to keep going. Whether you like it or not, whether you listen or not, we're over here. Thank you very much for your support. And don't forget, you know, let me pump this up a little bit more.
The What's Bruin Show
is more punk than you.
All right, so I'm done with that.
So fun.
So
that's cool. Well played, Jake. That great drop.
Welcome,
great way to start 2025.
Welcome to 2025.
We are more punk rock than you.
Thank you so much. And don't you goddamn forget it. Okay, so let's get into Mike. Flip a coin. Men's basketball, women's basketball. What do you want to go to first?
Let's start off with the women's basketball.
Let's go.
Why not? Number one should be number one.
There you go. Women's.
Basketball. Women's. Basketball.
Your number one in the country.
For the 7th week in a row.
Basketball team. Let's go. So, and hi, Nancy. So, Mikey, you know, you've been enjoying watching this team over the holidays. You know, they've got a few games under their belt. They've defended the number one ranking and all that good stuff. So, where are you at with this team right now?
I'm liking where they're at. 15-0. During that, when did I go? I went to the Nebraska game. It was the Sunday after Christmas, and I figured, since I had credentials, I would work that game. Then I was like, you know what? I'm going to take my kids too. I didn't think about, oh crap, how the hell am I going to work and do that? So luckily, I emailed the SID. I was like, hey, my kids are cool. Can they sit in the back? I just don't want to leave them out in the stands. And he was like, yeah, of course. So they sat in the back, and afterwards they were like, I've never seen that before. That is so cool.
What a fun experience.
Just to see the behind the scenes. And it was cool too, because I did buy tickets, but we were up like at the top of the lower bowl. So we get there, and I guess one of the ushers recognized me. I also had my media tag. They were like, hey, where the students sit, nobody's sitting there. It's unassigned. Do you want to go sit there with your kids? I'm like, oh, awesome. So we sat second and third row behind the west basket.
Nice.
Near the Nebraska bench. So that was cool. So, and then, afterwards they came and saw how it was all, what goes on behind the scenes. But that was a really good game. UCLA beat the crap out of Nebraska 91-54. I thought it was going to be a lot closer. And
unlike the men's game.
Yeah, UCLA had just so many good things going for them. Like, for example, what would you think of stats like this? They shot 55.9%. They had, where was it? It's right here. Oh, this was an amazing stat. 22 assists on 33 made baskets. That's insane.
That's pretty good.
There were some other really good stats there, but we get back there, and Corey Close was having none of it. Not Mick Cronin style, not, I don't want to hear, the good stuff. I'm, blah, 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 blah. But she was adamant that, and there were parts of the game in which the Bruins kind of lacked and, let Nebraska in. I remember it was in the second quarter. UCLA had gone on a little run, and then Nebraska caught up and actually took the lead in the second quarter. Corey Close calls timeout. After that, 10-0 run, and they just go on to murder Nebraska in the rest of the game.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, Mike, and I mean, we're really kind of focusing in on the opening a conference play for this team.
Yeah.
And that's Nebraska, Michigan, Indiana. And of those three games, they trailed after a few minutes into the first quarter exactly one time, and that's the moment you're talking about against Nebraska. And if you look at the score charts on these, or you look at ESPN or the game flow charts, there's a clear separation between the blue line on top and whatever team they're playing down below.
Mm-hmm.
And especially, like I said, in those Indiana and the Michigan game.
Yeah,
that's
where you could see exactly
the entire
where.
Game.
Yeah.
And against Nebraska after the second quarter, a giant, like I said, they're just whooping these teams' butts.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
And so the weekend happens. They get another number one ranking. It's slow during the holiday break, but UCLA did have a game on New Year's Day against Michigan, and that one they were a little bit better. Or was that there were other issues that Corey Close had with the team in the Michigan game, but Michigan was essentially number 27th in the nation. They received votes, but it was another one where Corey Close. Oh no, I'm sorry. This is the game where they had 29 assists off of 35 made field goals. That's insane. They almost had an assist for every basket that they took.
That's insane.
They had an insane amount of blocks. Steals, 9 steals, five blocks.
Hoosiers, the movie shit right there.
Yeah, that was the post game in which Corey Close said that they need better focus. If they're going to play like that in the Big Ten, they are not going to be number one anymore. They are not going to be undefeated. So they go into Indiana this past weekend, and by the way, the Big Ten really needs to figure out their damn scheduling. The women's game at Indiana started at 9 a.m. Pacific.
Yeesh.
On Fox. It was good grouping for Fox, but the men's game started at 11. And they were at Nebraska. Like, come on, we got to cover both teams. Can you spread it out a little bit?
Yeah, it's tough.
So that's I've talked about that before. That's a bit of my a pet peeve with this basketball scheduling here.
But if you're like me and you're not covering it, let's say you wanted to watch both basketball games. I mean, that's it's tight timing, but
totally, it's a cool
flows
doubleheader.
right into the next.
But
so the plight of the beat reporters, what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Well, at least those that cover both.
Yeah.
So,
Which, how many of those are there? It's Mike and everybody else.
few other people here and there. So the game at Indiana, still some lapses, but the fact that they went into Assembly Hall on the campus of Indiana, great basketball tradition. And this is another team that is really good. And it was both, I think it was Nebraska and Indiana who were both in the top 3 in the conference in 3-point shooting. Just shut that aspect of their game down. The Bruins were really good defensively. They're just getting in people's faces, and it also helps that you have 6'7" Lauren Betts covering in the middle. Although it's pretty funny trying to see teams double and triple team her, and when that happens, she just kicks out to someone that's open.
Yeah,
and the shooting has been good enough to where they are able to score, on those possessions. But yeah, it was a really tough atmosphere, and I don't want to get on the refs a bit, but there were a few flops that Indiana had, and people were calling it on the social medias. But it a few of them, yeah, but you got to that's just life on the road. You got to be prepared for anything. You can't make stupid mistakes. But again, UCLA came away with this one against a really good Indiana team, a double-digit win, 73-62. Freaking incredible. And the next they play on Tuesday, when this will probably be published. UCLA is up at Purdue on Tuesday. Purdue's not good at all. So hopefully, the Bruins use this game.
Wait, Purdue's not good, or they're not good?
They're not good. They're 7-7, 0-3. Although they are unlucky. Their first 3 games, actually technically 4 first Big Ten games, are all against ranked teams.
Oh wow!
The Big Ten has 8, I believe, 7 or 8 ranked women's basketball teams. This is quite a gauntlet for any team in the Big Ten. But it seems like Purdue's going to run into another buzzsaw because I don't foresee UCLA, being lackadaisical in this, or trying to take this one off. They definitely have to prove that they can really go into an opponent's home and just smack them around. They did that against Indiana, and they should be able to put away Purdue. I'm predicting like a 20-point win for that game. But right now, they are just firing on all cylinders. And you have Kiki Rice, who has been averaging, I think for the season, she's averaging 13 points a game. The last 3 or 4, she's been that's been up to like 18 points.
Yeah.
Lauren Betts just got her 8th double-double of the season. I think she's tied for 6th in that category. She had 25 points and 12 rebounds at Indiana. Insane. Player of the year right there. But the rest of the team is just really, they're complementary to what this team is doing. Gabriela Jaquez is, she's just a Swiss Army knife. Janiah Barker is proving to be one hell of a rebounder. London Jones, she's starting to get hot from the 3-point line. So that is going to be very important going forward. So right now they're just really gelling, but they can do better. I think it was a few weeks ago I said that I see them in a game, even when they're blowing teams out. There are little things where like, they could do better on that. They could do better on that, which says a lot about what this team's ceiling is, if at all. I'm just at a loss for words about how good they can be. But right now, hey, they're on a roll, and they should get. I believe if they win, this will be they'll be 16-0, and I believe that's the first time that would have happened in program history.
Nice. So when you look at this team, it looks like the ones that are getting the most minutes, obviously Lauren Betts said player of the year, quality. Kiki Rice is out there quite a bit. Jaquez is playing, she's your Swiss Army knife and all that stuff. Jones coming off the bench, but she's getting a lot of minutes. Beyond that, like, who would you say are the ladies that are kind of giving them the best minutes? Dugalich or Gardner, or any thoughts on any of them?
Dugalich is doing one hell of a job. She's playing much better than she did last year, and she's still a bit of a stretch 4 where she could play in the paint, but she can also pop out and hit threes. I believe she's second on the team in 3-point percentage.
It sounds about right.
And Gardner is giving good minutes off the bench. I think she could start, but this team is just really deep.
Yeah.
And, knock on wood that they haven't really had any major injuries. Betts was out for 2 games, but she didn't need to be, and it was like precautionary measures for an apparent leg injury. But right now, even if they were to suffer 1 injury, they can roll through it. 2, maybe the same. After that, it's going to be a lot tougher, and especially depending on who the player is. But so far, so good, and they are rolling right now. But this after Purdue, it does get a little bit tougher. It's kind of easier with Northwestern and Penn State, who are not that great. But then they have Baylor, Rutgers, Maryland. Oh man, Maryland's tearing things up. So yeah, it's going to be pretty difficult. It's going to get real difficult real soon.
Just by the rankings, they don't play another ranked team for the rest of the month really.
Yeah.
Until they get to the end of the month, they have Maryland on there, and then after that, once they hit Maryland, then it's like every other game they're going to be hitting a ranked opponent on average. So as of right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ranked teams still left on the schedule out of about looks like about 15 games or so. So obviously they're still going to be tested. Obviously in the Big Ten, we didn't think they wouldn't be, but they're playing well so far, and 15-0. You can't really complain about that.
Yeah.
Mikey, it's okay if you don't have an opinion on this, but do you have an opinion as to why they're not the unanimous number 1 team in the country? Why Notre Dame's got a couple of first place votes instead of them? Especially since Notre Dame's been on a winning streak, but they dropped 2 games in a row. About a month ago.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that at all? And once again, it's okay if you don't.
Yeah, I mean, I just think chalk it up to like East Coast bias. I don't know who it is, but I can assume that it's someone that is close to Notre Dame, or at least Midwest ACC basketball. But yeah, they absolutely should be. Who's number 2 right now?
South Carolina's number 2.
Yeah, and I get why I think they have 1 or
no, right. As
or
of
2
this
first place
current
votes?
poll, Notre Dame's got 2 first place votes, and that's it. Everything else is UCLA.
Oh,
That's why,
okay.
That's why it's confusing me. It's like I could see how somebody maybe, I guess, could go for Carolina, or just because
they had it.
Yeah.
They're still a pretty damn good team. Yeah.
But I don't know. Whatever. It's not like it really matters if the Bruins keep winning at the pace they're winning at. Then everything will be just fine anyway. And bottom line is there's 4 big number 1 seeds to go around anyway. So UCLA looks like they're well on track to do that right now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's awesome.
But yeah, it's looking good so far, and I'm just hoping that there's more coverage of the team, and especially network wise, because we were complaining about this last week. What do we have in the next few days? Big Ten Network for Purdue, so that's you could watch that. Big Ten Plus. Northwestern.
Looks like Penn State.
Peacock, Penn State. So,
Okay.
it's accessible. Fox for Baylor. So it doesn't look like they have a lot of.
That's pretty good. I mean, then you go Fox, FS1, and then NBC. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's a few more games where there's going to be on online only. Really, actually, after that, like pretty much everything's online or Big Ten Network until the very last game against SC
Mhm.
is going to be on Fox. So
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, like I said, we like talking about women's basketball, and it's certainly more popular than it has ever been.
Oh yeah.
But it's still on the upward trajectory. So
Yeah.
as much
Well, it's better, and I know you love the NBA and your Lakers,
People
Jake,
gotta-
but
people gotta give them ratings for them to get onto the TV, Mike.
exactly.
But anyways,
No, point taken.
go
But,
Lakers, brother.
it seems like with like the NBA, that viewership has been declining. So it's like you kind of have to strike while the iron's hot, and this is like a really good time for women's basketball. So to try to get as much exposure to it, and not just showing the games, but showing up and doing post game interviews and stuff like that. That's definitely going to help it out too. So that's where I'm trying to do my part.
very good. Well, I think nobody can accuse you of not doing your part, Mikey.
Yeah. Yeah. See.
All right. Well, let's get to men's then. All right. So the men's team has been not quite having as great a time as the women's team, but still, they're hanging in there, right? and they're sitting there at 11-3, but coming off of they lose one to Nebraska. We'll talk about that one first, Mikey, and then I want to go back and talk a little bit about Gonzaga, and we have some Crispy Bruin hounds to weigh in on Gonzaga as well. But the Nebraska game, Mike, what did you think of this, and why the hell did they lose going down the stretch, and why can't Darren Andrews throw a pea in the ocean?
Well, really quickly, just a quick recap. December 21st, UCLA loses to North Carolina, 76-74 in New York. A week later, they come back to the Intuit Dome, where the first college basketball game ever played in the Intuit Dome was UCLA versus Gonzaga. UCLA eked out that win 65-62.
Go Bruins.
And then January 4th, a week after that, they take on Nebraska in Lincoln, Nebraska. This game was kind of troubled from the start just because, and we still don't know the statuses
Let's go with that.
of starting forward Eric Daly and William Kyle. Eric Daly had, I think it was in the North Carolina game, he smushed his nose, and he was wearing a protective mask against Gonzaga, and he did, pretty decently. But he was doing warm-ups in the Nebraska game, but it was also said that he was a game-time decision. And just didn't see any time. Let me verify this.
No, he didn't.
Yeah. So that was troubling. Then you have Kyle, who comes off the bench. He had a small procedure on his knee, I believe it was, and I don't believe is season ending. I think Mick Cronin would have said if it's season ending. The week before the game against Nebraska, he said he's probably unavailable for Saturday, which that tells me it was probably a simple procedure and he just needs a few days. But yeah, having two big guys unavailable for a wicked had Big Ten game on the road, with Nebraska beating UCLA in this game, they extend their streak, which is the longest in Division I NCAA basketball, to 20 straight home wins.
Right.
So it was already going to be a tough game. We knew this, but UCLA just did not have a good post presence. They couldn't shoot anything, and and I get it. A lot of people are kind of frustrated with Dylan Andrews. He has just not been there at all, and he continues to start games, which is just puzzling to me, especially with Cronin just pulling the trigger quickly on guys who make a mistake. It seems like you might want them to play through that because the defense is there. I mean, UCLA allowed 66 points, which isn't a lot. That's a kind of like in their wheelhouse. But you got to figure out a way for the offense to kind of flow together. Tyler Bilodeau, even though he had 15 points, he was it looked like he had trouble, getting some shots, some good looks. Sky Clark, we don't know about him. He had apparently injured, it looked like he injured his shoulder twice coming off screens. One of them was Berke Buyuktunsel set a screen and he ran right into him, and Sky Clark just collapsed. But he finished with 9 points, 3 rebounds. So we don't know about what his status is. And then with Daly out, Sebastian Mack took his spot, but Mack does a good job. Mack is still developing, and he's doing a good job getting to the rim and getting fouled and getting to the free throw line, but not a lot of points initially. He has slow starts. Kobe Johnson, I think he's probably the most outside of Daly, the second best player on the team. Outside of Daly and Bilodeau, the third best player on the team. Like, his defense has been really freaking good. What did he grab? What was it? 11 rebounds in that game, 3 assists, and then he added 9 points. But as a team, UCLA shot 38.6%. They shot 14.3% from the 3-point line, which is weird because they actually have been doing really well shooting the ball from distance. And that was one thing that Mick Cronin was asked last week. And he goes, someone said, "Oh, can you talk about shooting the ball well from the 3-point line?" And I think Cronin said now. Now we are. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. And sure enough, just could not hit anything from long distance.
Yeah,
so,
the starters were, let's see, 10, 14, 2 for 20.
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
That's not going to get done.
No.
And only the Lazar Stefanovic had more than one 3-point shot, and he went 2 for 6.
Yeah.
And that's
another thing too.
That's absolutely crippling.
Yeah.
In a game you lose by 8, that's absolutely crippling.
Yeah. And then don't want to get into this. I mean, this one wasn't as bad, but 10 for 3 free throws. This was actually probably one of their better free throw shooting game in the last few.
Yeah, you can't. You can't really complain about 77%, especially when they've turned in some of their other efforts.
Yeah,
But
it's personally, I just wonder about what Cronin is doing with his lineups. Like personally, I just think he started slow, but Stefanovic, he was a starter last year. He's been doing well whenever he gets on the court. Daimara, I've been tracking the individual statistics, and him and Daly are the two names that are constantly at the top of points per minute, rebounds per minute, and defensive plays per minute. So Mara looks like he can play some extended minutes, and he's playing more minutes in the first half. But I'm just wondering, like, why is he limited to that? I'm just like, is there something that he sees? Does maybe he fizzles out a lot faster than the other guys?
I mean, looking at his body type, to me, it seems like he would be the type to fizzle out a little bit.
Yeah, which is explainable. You don't want a tired guy in there giving up, layups late in the game.
Absolutely.
But
he is a big, giant, tall guy, and maybe I think maybe we'd like to see him actually fizzle out, as opposed to just the theory that he is fizzling out. But who knows?
Exactly.
It's not our call.
Yeah, exactly. But I think like right now, just the main thing, and we saw it in the last 3 games. UCLA, they don't have a go-to guy. They definitely need a go-to guy. And yeah, Dylan Andrews is definitely not doing it right now. He is just not having, just overall, he's just not looking real good. I mean, in the last stats that I tracked, Andrews is 6th on the team. He's averaging 8.9 points per game, but he's 6th in points per minute. That's not gonna get it done. He's towards the bottom in rebounds and defensive plays per minute. So not to question Mick Cronin, but why is he playing? Why is he playing so much when he is having just a hard time? And I get that Trent Perry is the backup point guard, but he's a freshman. But even still, if Andrews isn't cutting it, why not move Sky Clark over or bring Trent Perry in? Because it's just not really flowing properly. So I don't know. It's just that just seems to be the main issue right now is just not being able to have that offense there while the defense is just the defense is really good. Can't really complain. There were a few times where guys just blew past the Bruins or they hit key 3-pointers, but that happens. But for the most part, when you're limiting teams on a game by game basis, that's freaking excellent. I mean, that's Mick Cronin basketball, but it also is kind of Mick Cronin basketball that there isn't one key offensive player that can get things done.
Well, and you go to Andrews and you're talking about, why is he getting the run that he is? And you understand he was one of the guys that Cronin depended on last year.
Yeah.
But if you look at just his game log this year, well, number one, his field goal percentage is actually better than it was last year, which actually was like kind of double taking that. But everything else is worse. The 3-point percentage is worse. The free throw percentage, he's shooting 66% or 67%.
Oh, you can't do that as a guard.
As a guard.
Right?
Assists are down. Turnovers are
That's
up.
not, yeah.
Personal fouls are up, and points are down by, at least a 30. Went from like 12.5 to like, 8 or something.
Yeah.
But also when you actually look at his game logs and, when I saw that field goal percentage, I was like, well, he has to have padded that a little bit in some of the weaker games, because when I remember him playing this year, it's shooting dreadfully through these games. And I've paid attention to the bigger games than I have the cream puffs. And that's true. There's one Division I team, or like one, I should say, Power 4, or however you want to classify. One of the big teams they've played, only one of them out of the 8 games they've played, Nebraska, Gonzaga, UNC, Arizona, Oregon, Washington, and New Mexico. There's only one of those games where he shot 50% or over. The rest of them, he's like well under 40% pretty much.
Yeah.
So that is certainly a problem. And so you wonder how long or how much trust he's going to have in Andrews. And obviously, I would love it. I would love nothing more than to see him turn it around and have some big performances.
Oh, hell yeah. We love Andrews.
And we're only halfway through the season, you know?
Yeah.
And I think this is pretty apparent. Just listen to me, Mike, pod in and pod out. But, you go over to the Shirley household, and their favorite thing to do collectively as a couple is to MF their least favorite player the entire game. And every time they touch the ball or whatever happens, it's like, oh, keep on.
He's the worst player ever.
That's the type of fans that they are, and that's okay. You can be whatever kind of fan you want. But
Totally.
we're like the opposite of that, right? So me and you were like, God damn, Dylan Andrews, get together. This must be like a freaking red alert, DEFCON 1 sort of situation with this young man. So I'm hoping he gets it turned around because I would like to see him, have a good season and have the Bruins and contribute to the Bruins' good season. But
yeah,
Mikey, when we're talking about this game in the Big Ten, and it drops UCLA down to 2-1 in the Big Ten, I think, because they did have that victory over Oregon and Washington earlier in the year.
Mm-hmm.
So in the standings, they're 2-1, which puts them, in the top third-ish of the conference right now.
Mm-hmm.
But still a lot of games to go. And I do want to talk about Gonzaga in a minute, but just to talk about UCLA going forward right now. Nebraska was going to be a tough game. And the Bruins were actually underdogs in this game by like a point or two. But it would have been nice for them to get this one. Considering that now they're going to be playing Michigan tomorrow, and then
who's now just newly ranked.
Yeah, and then at Rutgers, Maryland, or the reverse of that, Maryland, Rutgers, and then hosting Iowa, Wisconsin, then at Washington, at SC. So I mean, there's going to be the Big Ten schedule is not going to cut them any breaks really. So it'd be nice if they could, number one, get these injuries back, and then number two, match up okay against some of these bigger teams, because certainly we're going to talk about Gonzaga in a minute, but Gonzaga's big guy tore them a new one for the majority of that game. That was their biggest problem in that game, was dealing with that dude. And then the Big Ten is just a bunch of big lumbering oafy dudes, right? I don't want to characterize them like just big dudes that you're going to have to deal with. So this Nebraska game, we talk about, Daly being out and not playing Mara enough and all that stuff. Do you think that if they have the full complement of players, are you still confident that they can play well in the Big Ten and come away with a good record and, get themselves a high seed in the NCAA? Is anything shaking your confidence in that at this point?
No, I mean, the one thing that worries me is not having Eric Daly out there. I think that is that's really detrimental. If he's fine, not just he can play, but if he's actually fine, I think they've done really well having him and Bilodeau play down low together. Yeah. But if it's just Bilodeau and they have to try to either go small or I don't know, what a few times they had Mara at the 5 and Bilodeau at the 4, kind of worked out. That actually seems like very promising, but at the same time, you still need a deep roster of big guys.
Yeah, well, and Mara, as we said, for whatever reason, I think it's unrealistic to expect him to play. Like maybe he plays 15 minutes or 18 minutes.
Exactly.
But he's probably not playing 25.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
With that in mind, like I agree with you, Mike. Like I think that Mara and Bilodeau out there is a pretty good combination for a chunk of the game. Yeah. And then Bilodeau and Eric
Daly.
Bilodeau and Daly, are also an effective, probably for a bigger chunk of the game.
Yeah,
they can get it done, and I think we coach
that. I think is needed.
We trust in Cronin to get them to a good place defensively. Offensively is where this team really has its troubles right now, I think.
Yeah.
But with that being said, for Cronin to manufacture this good defense that he needs, especially against some of the bodies they're going to play against now in the Big Ten, they do need their full complement of players. So we got to hope that Daly is not out for long, or that's not a big deal, and that was like a momentary absence.
Because in the game,
I hope his face is okay.
Right. Because in the game that he played with the mask, he scored 19 points.
Oh, he was great.
He was 5 for 10 from the field.
Absolutely great.
4 of 5 from 3-point line. Yeah. Just amazing. And then
the best players
just didn't play against Nebraska.
So we need that to change. So
yeah, exactly.
With that being said, I do want to turn our attention just specifically to the Gonzaga game for a couple of reasons. One is Crispy Bruin, friend of the show, and called in with a few different things, a before and after sort of take, and I want to give him his due. And then I want to talk about Intuit Dome specifically. So let's get to Crispy's call that he made before the Gonzaga game.
Hey guys, it's the Christy Bruin calling in 2 days before the ball game against the Gonzaga Zags. Frankly, I am sick of this team. F the Zags, man. Like, my freshman year, we go to the Final Four, play the Zags, have that heartbreaker in overtime, and then follow up next year, play them in Vegas. Me and my dad decided, oh, that'd be a fun trip. It's Thanksgiving weekend, go see the grandparents play, number one in the country, like, great team, gonna be a good game. Blown out the room. Entire game in my ear, some lady from Gonzaga is screaming, talking mad. Stupid. Year after, Jaime Tiger, senior year, Sweet 16. Mercifully, I'm on a plane to D.C. while the game's happening. I get the notification that we lose. Another heartbreaker. I still haven't watched that game. Can't bring myself to do it. It makes me sick thinking that's the last game. Another stupid loss to Gonzaga in stupid Vegas. And then last year, again, another like close one. We have like, maybe our worst team in who knows how long. Playing Gonzaga in Maui. Stupid Maui. And now we're here at the cursed Clippers arena, built with the bones of billions of Steve Ballmer's dollars. So hopefully Mick can get this monkey off his back. But I am so sick of losses to Gonzaga at this point, dude. Since being a basketball fan, I have not seen us beat Gonzaga. I went down to San Diego with the hopes that SDSU could beat Gonzaga, and that didn't happen. So please, Mick, please, if we can just get one win this season, if I could pick one game to win, please just beat Gonzaga. Please, Mick.
Well, Crispy, I hope we don't have to pick just one more win this season, but the Bruins did win that game. We went in there.
Go Bruins!
And the Bruins did beat the Zags, Godfather. That pisses him off every time, but God bless you, Godfather. But, beat those Zags.
Go Bruins.
And, and hopefully you're happy. You're going to give us another call in a minute, Crispy, and we'll get to that in a moment. But, Mike, I know that the Bruins have had tough sledding against Gonzaga in the last number of years, and there's been some just crippling, heartbreaking losses that Crispy just related to us. But I've never had that relationship with Gonzaga because my memory of Gonzaga is Adam Morrison crying.
Yeah.
And that'll always be my first memory of Gonzaga.
Yeah.
And it's those great Final Four teams under Ben Howland that form the basis of my relationship with the old Bulldogs. And so we always got that over them. And I know that it's not the same for guys younger guys that came around later. I feel bad for Crispy in that regard, right? He's too young. Remember 2006, a little whippersnapper.
Yeah.
But just, so I certainly feel the pain. Like no one hates Suggs more than me. That son of a bitch. If I see him, he's crossing the street in front of me, I'm not going to run him over, but I'm going to think about it. That's all I'm saying. Jalen Suggs, I hate you. You suck.
Gonna put it in the
God
back
bless
of
you.
my...
in all the nice ways possible. But it's funny to hear the perspective of someone else talking about the UCLA basketball and the baggage that it can create with you, especially baggage versus other teams. And it's like, this is not that team. Gonzaga is not the team that I have that baggage with, just because my first take is always Crying Morrison and Heartbreak City and that call and how wonderful it was. Because actually, when we watched the game, I don't think you were over here, Mike, but the Shirleys were actually in my living room when that game happens. But that's where my baggage is with Gonzaga. But they ended up beating them suckers. And I was there, and Megan was there, and the Godfather Jim Bendow was there, and the St. Maryland was there. Mikey, were you there?
I was not.
Bummer. But it was a game that happened at the Intuit Dome, and let's see how that went. I got another call from Crispy.
Hey guys, it's the Crispy Bruin calling in after an excellent 65-62 UCLA victory out at the Intuit Dome. First, so happy we finally beat them. So just having that monkey off our back. So maybe my favorite win thus far of the Nick Cronin era, notwithstanding the tournament games. Favorite regular season. Intuit Dome, very nice. Obviously still working out many of the kinks of being a one-act system. I don't think it's a great system compared to what they got over at SoFi or even at the Rose Bowl, but it is what it is. I'm sure they'll figure out ways to make it better. Very impressed with the physical arena itself. Very vertical, lots of noise. The UCLA faithful were in full effect, even if they were kind of comatose at certain points in the game. Kind of hard to get everyone to stand up. But when they were loud, it was louder than I've honestly ever heard Pauly. So it was a great fan experience. If we can hopefully get a draw at the Intuit Dome at some point in the future for an NCAA tournament game, I like our odds at semi-home game. Also, big ups to all the UCLA fans that did show up. I was really worried that this would be a 50-50 or even 60-40 Gonzaga game, but it was dominated by the UCLA faithful. To everyone that says UCLA fans don't show up to things like this, suck it. Hopefully we can get folks out to Vegas in the future, but this was a good trial run for getting people out. About the game in particular, unfortunate that DA couldn't get going. Obviously there's a good player in there somewhere, but being unplayable down the stretch against Gonzaga is a real worrying sign for his trajectory. Kobe had a great offensive explosion today, made those pretty big threes early in the second half. Obviously Daly putting in Yeoman's work again. My one pain point that I'll kind of nitpick tonight. Philadelphia didn't think it was his best game. Seems like a pretty obvious matchup problem for him at this point. I don't see him doing well against a lot of the bigs in the Big Ten. I thought Adai looked really good in the minutes he got to Clay. I thought he was a way better defensive matchup for EK. I thought he got his shots in on offense. He couldn't really get a feel for the arena. But if he had more playing time, I'm sure he would have started seeing those fall in. So I really hope we see more of Adai going forward. A real key to our success this season is going to be if we get him going, because otherwise we're just going to see kind of more of some of the problems we saw today, being forced to play out a three-point line, not really having an interior game, getting out-rebounded pretty significantly. Hope we can get over that hump. Hope Adai can get more minutes. Hope Will Kyle can get back to 100%. I don't know what happened with him today. I haven't looked at the board, the news or whatever. Yeah, I think our key to success this year is going to be getting a lot more production from that true 5 slot, being able to move Bilodeau down to the 4. And if we can't get Andrews back on track this year, then I think honestly running Johnson at the 2 might be our best 5-man lineup. But let me know what you guys think. Obviously, great win. Very excited for the future. Enjoy the new year, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for calling, Crispy. And obviously, he hit some of the things that we've already talked about. We don't need to come back to Andrews, who was over in this game, and why I saw personally. But he was not by any means the only Bruin that was not shooting well in this game. I mean, for a lot of the game, like the shooting percentages were like in the teens. It was very, very troubling. And we were kind of, but it was that way for Gonzaga as well for a lot of the game. And thank goodness the Bruins were shooting much better from 3 in this game than they were from 2-point land. Me and the Godfather were talking about that throughout the game. And also, thank goodness the Bruins decided to have a good free throw shooting game, unlike the Zags in this game, because that really was what the difference was. They were 50% from 3 and 72% from the line, whereas the Zags were 30% from 3 and 62% from the line. So I don't really have anything too much more to say about the actual game, Mikey, versus Gonzaga, unless you do.
No, I'm good. It was good to get that monkey off their back, and especially since Gonzaga was the top scoring team in the nation, to hold them to their fewest points of the season.
It was definitely a UCLA style game in that sense.
Definitely beautiful. And it was weird because Gonzaga tried to do that type of game as well. They had some really good defensive sequences, but for the most part, having UCLA finally come away with a victory against Gonzaga, that was that helped. That definitely took the sting away from the North Carolina loss. But now we have another sting to deal with. So there's that. Either way, still, that was a good win.
Absolutely. So with that being said, I do want to talk a little bit about Intuit Dome because this is my first trip there, and it's the only trip I'll take unless UCLA's back there, probably, because I'm not going to go to a Clipper game, I don't believe. But being at Intuit Dome, I had been to the building before. A month or 2 ago, I dropped the kids off for a Tyler, the Creator record release party, but I did not actually go into it. And into it, see what I did there?
Oh,
it's a very cool looking place from the outside.
Yeah.
And I actually liked it better for the concert than I did normally like during the daylight hours because they have all these LEDs on the outside of it. So they made it all green, which fits in with the theme of that particular artist. So it looked really cool at night, right?
Yeah.
Seeing it in the day, it was much more, and by the way, I'm never going to say that red, white, and blue isn't a nice color scheme. Team America, yeah, let's go. But there is something to be said for just how generic the Clippers are in general, how generic and how terrible the logos are now. Now that Ballmer's taken over, and it's he's a great owner, but Jesus God, their branding just is terrible. And walking onto the grounds and just seeing the building in the daylight, I thought it was more impressive at night with the LEDs. So I mean, most of the games are going to be at night anyway, so that's not a big deal. It was very impressive coming from the parking structure over the bridge, and there's a wall with a bunch of Clippers on there and like whatever to all that. But it was a really cool kind of facade that you walk through down the steps, and then you see this cool little Clipper ship made of basketball hoops. That's kind of fun, and that was neat to see. You come down the steps, and then you walk into the grounds of the arena, and then they have, if you signed up for it and did it properly, they have face recognition to let you into the stadium. And that was kind of neat to see how it worked as well. Not all the kinks are worked out, like Crispy said. But you walk up to your aisle, and then the guy's like, Jake, okay, you're good. Go on through. Megan, you're good. Go on through. And that part was weird. And it was relatively seamless if you did the app right. I have more to say on that.
How are the seats?
I'm getting there.
Yeah.
You walk into the grounds, and there's like a walkway that you're walking through, and then the stadium entrance is on the left, and then there's like corporate or their offices on the right. And it is kind of like walking into SoFi, where YouTube Stadium, YouTube Arena, whatever, YouTube Theater. YouTube Theater is over there, and they have business. Then they have their office buildings, and then SoFi Stadium's over there. So it's a similar design to that. Really nice, really nice open thing. Once you get into the actual arena, number one, the inside of it is pretty darn cool. All of the seats have LEDs on them. All of the seats, the seat I was in was very comfortable, right? So that part, they nailed it, right? And having the LED show inside the stadium, the ability for them to do all sorts of things with that is just cool in of itself. And I'm sure we'll see that in more stadiums going forward. Every time they redo the seats or whatever, they'll probably put that little system in. The sight lines, as far as I could tell, although I have heard different people saying that it's kind of hard to see depending on where you're sitting in some places, but it is very, vertical. And so that is very good for the game atmosphere. Yeah. And it actually makes it feel much smaller on the inside than it is, because it actually holds a decent number of people. But I swear I felt like it was much less than Staples, but it's not much less than Staples. And it really, a big part of it is there's only like one row of luxury suites, as opposed to Staples, which is like, there's like 100 feet of luxury seats, right? Which makes that place seem much more cavernous. This place does not seem cavernous. You made a big deal. The Clippers make a big deal about their little wall on one side of the stadium where everybody's got to stand, and there's a little rail for you to stand at and kind of like yell and scream from. It's whatever. It's people standing over there. Like it's just seats that you would be in, and whether people are standing or sitting, I guess it's a cool idea. It seemed kind of gimmicky to me as far as that part of it.
Well, especially for their fans, because don't you have to prove that you're a Clippers fan to
that part of it? Like, that part of it.
I do like that part.
That part's like total Bush League to me. It's like, okay, if you can't trust your fans to come to your arena and give you a good home crowd without having to kick people out, that just screams Clippers to me. That's like when I tried to buy Clipper season tickets at one point, which I am a former Clipper season ticket holder way back in the day, because it was the only affordable thing. But just trying to have Clipper season tickets, and they send you a threatening letter saying, if you sell too many of your seats, we're going to seize your seats. Fuck off. You know who doesn't have to send that letter? The Lakers. You know who doesn't have to send that letter? The Dodgers. You know who doesn't have to send that letter? Any team that has an actual real fan base other than the 10,000 people that fucking go to their games. So whatever with all that. I thought the wall, I was wondering what it was going to be like when I actually looked at it. And I understand the idea, and I think it's okay of an idea. I do think of all the things, the LEDs on the seats, the comfortable seats, the vertical structure of the stadium, that was the most gimmicky and like, okay, whatever with that. But then again, I was at a neutral site sort of game. So maybe if I watched a Clipper game and saw how it really affected a game, maybe I would change my mind on it. I'm open to that. As far as the interior or the exterior of the interior of the arena, basically the concourse is what I'm talking about. We sat in club seats that, thank you to Godfather for getting those for us. So when we were on the main concourse, we actually had to walk down some stairs, go through a club level where they had a nice lounge and served like the separate food and stuff. All that was very nice. Getting into the stadium from there was very nice. They had very nice attendance. Everybody working there was doing a great job of being courteous and all that stuff. But the concourse itself, it's all based on facial recognition if you signed up for it with the app, right? But there's a lot of people who didn't, and so some people aren't using that. But as far as the actual concessions on the main concourse, they're all named something like fast break or free throw or stuff like that, like very generically named after basketball terms, which is fine. But there's like 4 of each. They're all named the same thing. And when you're walking along the concourse, you have no idea where you are in relation to the rest of the stadium. Nice. Unless you like look on your map, right? Yeah. So when I was actually walking around the concourse, I actually found it so generic because there's no like real brands. It's all operated by Intuit. And so it's like they're just their brand. I actually was walking around. I wanted to walk around the whole concourse, which I did. And I overshot myself by about 30% because I walked right past where I was supposed to go back down to my seats. So that part I didn't like because it's just very generic and same. And I
get that. I get that feeling at Staples though sometimes too.
I guess, but there are so many different things that Staples has in it that are different brands that I very easily can locate myself in Staples no matter where I'm at. Like I could locate myself on the upper level based on where the bar is and where the band plays, and I can and which side has the walkout to where you go onto the patio and which side doesn't, right? And that's what I'm saying. It's like I can't really explain any better other than in Staples or even at SoFi, I knew where I was at all times, and I'm generally pretty good at locating myself. And I was just surprised that I wasn't able to locate myself in Intuit. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Yeah. I'm just saying it's a thing.
First time too. Yeah.
I'm just saying it's a thing that happened. But I was thinking about, I'm like, if I was here again, I would have the same problem because there's nothing that looks different. It's just the same all the way around. Yeah. That's my only thing I'm saying. It's not even really a negative. I'm just saying that's my experience with it. The funny thing about the face recognition stuff was it's really cool in theory, and I think Crispy was kind of mentioned this too. But in practice, we were trying to buy, like a popcorn and a soda pop or whatever. And once we got into the little snack shack area, it worked great. We walked in, grabbed our thing, walked out. It took us 5 seconds. The part where it didn't work is the dumb fuck in front of me who couldn't figure out how to work his thing, and he was mouthing off to the attendant who was trying to be, who's being very patient, the most patient attendant I've seen in a while. But this idiot spent like 4.5 minutes arguing with him and not allowing his phone to work because he didn't know how to work it, and he wouldn't follow the attendant's directions. So just getting into the little snack area was a burden because the facial software wasn't quite up with the intuiting nature of it with the dumbass that was in front of me. Yeah. So and that's not really the arena's fault. That's the dumbass in front of me's fault. But it's like that slowed everything down. Yeah. And the whole goal is to speed everything up. Other than that, watching the game was really cool. I got to see listener Dave, the designer of all the What's Bruin logos there. That was wonderful.
Oh, nice.
Megan liked seeing him. And I know some other folks were there too. And really, I don't have any. Oh, I'm sorry. There's one thing. There's more things I have. One is unbelievably positive, and I hope it's adopted everywhere. And one is horribly negative, and I advise you against it. Okay? You want the positive or the negative thing first?
Negative.
The negative thing is the parking structure. I specifically bought their preferred parking at their preferred lot right across the street on the west side of the street on the south corner.
Catty corner big to structure. The casino.
Yeah, it's like but it's across from Intuit. Intuit's on the southeast, and the parking structure on the southwest. Yeah, I bought that because I wanted the full experience of walking through the thing, going over the thing, and like I said, down the stairs and all that stuff. The parking structure getting there was cool. You park, it's got the recognition for your license plate. You don't have to even scan anything. You just drive right in. That part's cool. I was on the first level of this motherfucker. I go up the ramp and park. Okay. After the game, they had, whether it's the parking attendants or just the fact that it's a parking structure. I'm always nervous parking in a parking structure for a stadium game because like you're never getting out of this mother effer. Yeah. And guess what happened? We never got out of that mother effer. Like it took so much longer than it needed to get out of the parking structure. So if you're going to go to a Clipper game or anything at Intuit, I highly advise against parking in the preferred parking. Park across the street on the SoFi lot. Park over at the Cosm parking lot. Those are also parking structures, but so much easier to get in and out of for a game at Intuit. I'm just telling you right now, stay out of that freaking parking structure. Because by the way, you're paying a premium for it anyway. It's one of the more expensive parking spaces, and you get effed after the game. Now, the most positive thing, and it might be the most positive sporting venue experience I've had in years.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think it might revolve around, Mike? Knowing me personally, what do you think it might revolve around?
$2 fountain drinks?
Not $2 fountain drinks, but relatively cheap, like $8 or $9. No, I think it was like $9 or $10. Refillable fountain drinks with a freaking soda fountain that you don't have to check into anybody with on the concourse. You just walk up and fill it up. Let's fucking go.
A souvenir cup or just a regular cup
that you can bring back with you later.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. That's well played into it.
Never has there been a development in live sports that I am more in favor of, especially when you contrast that with the Staples Center. I love the Lakers. Staples Center, it's my spot. I go there all the time, right? Been a season ticket holder for 20 years. Every year, the sodas get smaller and more expensive.
Yeah.
I just figured out my hack for Staples Center, by the way. Did I tell you this?
No.
It's been a while.
No.
I'm going to get a free soda every time I go to Staples Center because you know why? They have a designated driver program, and all I have to do is go sign the little contract saying I'm going to be a designated driver, and they give you a free soda. That's the only one I'm ever buying another soda at Staples Center again in my life.
Damn.
Because otherwise it's a ripoff. It's $12 and things like a 12-ounce cup.
What's the beer sitch like?
And they give you a cup that says, please recycle me. You know what I'm going to do when I get a $12 cup?
Trash it.
That says, please. I'm not going to trash it. I'm going to like create more trash just to put in that thing so that I can like leave it somewhere so it doesn't get recycled. I want to do everything but recycle that son of a bitch just out of spite.
What was the beer situation like at Intuit? $12, $15?
Mike, I'm ashamed, but it was me and Megan, so I don't know.
No, yeah, that's fine.
But I imagine, but look, everything seemed like it was relatively reasonably priced compared to a stadium sort of thing. So that part was like unbelievably cool, and I love that, and that's what I'll leave you with my experience at Intuit. Mikey, do you have anything else to say about this basketball stuff?
No, that was good. That was a lot.
I think so too. And Jesus Christ, how did we come up with we're already at like an hour or over on this? So, and we still want to say a little bit about football. So let's do a quick little football talk here that we will expand next week. But let's get to what's happened since last time we talked, which is actually quite a bit.
Blue 32, Blue 32, California, hey! Football.
So, Mikey, since the last time me and you talked,
the
Bruins had 80 guys on their football team, and then 40 of them left, and then they went and got 40 nuke kind of guys. Is that kind of accurate? I think it's
almost
kind of sums it up.
Almost cut the numbers in half, but yeah. When the transfer portal opened, it just seemed like doom and gloom because not only was there what I would say is an unusual amount of players entering the transfer portal, but also guys that were pretty much guaranteed to be starters next season.
Yeah, you think?
Justin Martin, J. Michael Sturdivant, Logan Loya. So it was like, oh, great, we're losing all those players. And that was before the firing of Bieniemy and the hiring of Tino Sunseri, who I think he's an older, better looking, probably less racist version of Morrissey. I'm just saying, he has great hair. But at this moment, UCLA has 20 guys that have entered the transfer portal. Only 9 have committed elsewhere. Right. So there are 11 players that have the option, or it seems that it's possible for them to come back. But oppositely, like you were
the
just
9
talking
that have
about,
committed though, those are some pretty good 9. Martin's gone, J. Mike's gone, Loya's gone.
Who's not committed?
Hard my heart,
and Country Strong,
and
and Clint Stevens and DJ Justice. Right. So these are guys that I liked. I think they did step up with a lot of the guys that they have committed because, again, to your point, as I was just about to say, UCLA has brought in 19 players. So basically they're -1 on that margin. Not bad, especially when you look at what, for example, USC. I think they lost about 20 guys. I think they've only signed 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Not great. And they had some key contributors. But anyway, of the guys that have committed, 1 quarterback, no running backs, 4 offensive linemen, and I believe 3 of them are interior, 2 wide receivers, 3 defensive linemen, 1 linebacker, and 8 defensive backs. And this also, I believe a lot of this has to do with the fact that, and I'm just going to go through this really quickly, the turnover with the coaching staff. As I just said, Sunseri, he's going to be offensive coordinator as well as quarterback. As of now, I don't think UCLA has a running backs coach, or at least not announced. Quan is the offensive line coach. Neuheisel got promoted to assistant head coach, and he's still coaching tight ends. UCLA also brought in from Cal Bro Toller to coach the wide receivers. Just, what was it, today or yesterday? It was announced that they brought in Bailey McElwain to help out with special teams. On defense, you have Malloy, still the defensive coordinator. Not official yet, but UCLA was pursuing Jethro Franklin for defensive line. You have White coaching linebackers with Lynn and Demetrius Martin coaching in the secondary. Mm-hmm. So it looks like that is almost filled. So the combination of both getting players and staff members in here, I think it's a little bit less jarring than it was, maybe 3 weeks ago.
I couldn't, just the way you termed that, I strongly disagree with the less jarring part, because this is nothing but jarring to me. However,
but
not quite as depressing, let's say. This is.
Why should you say less jarring? Because every team is going through this.
Yeah, that doesn't make it less jarring, though, right?
True.
Like, just because everybody's going through it doesn't mean it's like, holy shit. Like,
well, I'm talking about
a third of the roster just turned over, whereas in the past that would be insane. Like, this would be the most insane season ever if it wasn't happening all over college football, because college football is freaking out right now, man.
Well, I'm saying that in terms of UCLA, just the fact where
it's
we
like
saw all of these guys leaving.
The beginning of Super Troopers, and that dude is in the backseat of that car, and the cop just pulled him over. Thorny just pulled him over, and he just ate a giant bag of weed / mushroom / everything, and now he's looking at their, and his eyes are bulging, and he's kind of starting to sweat, and he's like, "I'm freaking the fuck out, man." And Thorny looks at him and goes, "You're freaking the fuck out, man." That's where we're all at in college football. We're all freaking the fuck out, man.
That's where I think we were when all of this started, when the transfer portal started.
I haven't stopped freaking out, Mike.
I have, just considering the talent that they have brought in. I think we're now right at the part where Rami is having that heart-to-heart with his wife.
Yeah.
And then they go into the bed. Anyway, I think that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at.
So,
but I'm not as freaked out. I'm not Shroomin right now and just high off my head, going, oh my God, what's happening? Or are we gonna is this gonna be good? Is it gonna be bad? At this point, I'm like, okay, things have calmed. It's there's been turnover the last 2-3 seasons since this whole transfer portal nonsense started. So as long as that's just what I wanted to see. I wanted to see the coaching staff just put in some effort. I'm also glad that Indiana lost early when they did, so Tino Sunseri can get to work here in his new job. Sure. But I'm not as freaked out. I think they brought in some really key guys, especially the offensive line. So I have no idea what they're gonna do. I don't know.
That's why I'm freaked out.
True, but I mean, I'm just saying. Like, I think every team is going through that right now. But basic point, I'm less freaked out than I was 3 weeks ago.
I certainly am less freaked out, but I still have no idea how this team is going to be next year.
Oh, true.
And so someone's going to tell me that they're going to be terrible. I'm like, well, I don't know. And someone's going to tell me they're going to be great. It's like, I don't know. Or somewhere in between. It's like, I really don't know how they're going to be like, because I don't see how anybody could know possibly how this team could be when you look at just these two statements I'm going to tell you about the offense and the defense right now.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk more about like the actual depth chart and where we think guys are going next week. I think we have a little more time to spread out, but the offense is projected to have 5 new incoming starters. And I'm not saying new starters. I'm saying new to the school starters.
Yeah.
Like right now, if you go by the, by your company's
Bro.
the bro, just, like quick take, these are who we think's going to start. They have 5 guys on offense that have never been in UCLA uniform that are going to come in and be starters.
Yeah.
And that's including your QB, who we'll talk about in a minute, and 3 offensive linemen. And then you add on to that, those 5 guys. Then you add in the fact that the running back room is completely up in the air. We have no idea if it's going to be, TJ Harden or, the starter right now is Berger. That's a tasty burger.
Yeah.
Where's my drop for a tasty burger? Oh, I got to find that while I'm talking about it. Maybe I can, maybe I don't. Oh, there it is.
This is a tasty burger.
And he is a tasty burger, but other than that, we have no idea who's even going to run the rock for him, right?
Yeah.
So on
Or
offense,
throw.
5 brand new to the school guys plus a crazy running room. And then on defense, you have another 5 brand new, never been in UCLA uniform to the school guys, supposedly projected by Bro incoming as starters.
Yeah.
And then you have a complete mystery group playing on your defensive line. The defensive line was the strength of the team last year with Jay Toya out there, and then the guys that they filled in. And now you have a bunch of guys who may be okay, or maybe contributors, or maybe hurt, or may not be hurt. So that's why I'm freaking the F out. You tell me 10 total collective offensive defensive starters are going to be first time we're seeing them in the UCLA uniform. That has got me wondering how they're going to be, because it's possible that the majority of these guys pan out and they're good players and they scout them well and all that stuff. But it's also possible that they're transferring for a reason and they're not going to work out for whatever reason. And it's also like, who are the team leaders that are going to step up on this particular team? We applauded Deshaun Foster in his first year for getting these guys to play hard, but it wasn't all him. It was the fact that they came back into this year with guys like Garbers and Harden and J. Mike and Titus and Jones, Keegan Jones and Matavao on offense that knew, obviously everything was new, and they had that horrible system that Bieniemy put in, Fredo put in, but they were still team leaders from the years past. And on defense, it was that times 10 when you talk about they had Toya, Medrado, and Oladejo, and Kirkwood, and Davies out there, and all these other guys that had so much experience, along with, I know he was a new DC last year, but he was with the program. There was that consistency. All of your leaders are really gone now. And so now that's another thing you have to figure out. How are they going to, buy into Deshaun Foster's culture, and are they all going to be pulling in the same direction? And with so many guys coming from so many different places, is it possible? Absolutely. Is it what college football is now? Pretty much. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. How is this going to work out? So you could convince me it's good. You could convince me it's bad. I just don't know now. And that's what's got me sort of freaked the F out, man. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, there you go.
Jake,
do you have a quarterback? Mike?
Yes.
What do you think about the new guy at quarterback?
Interesting catch, but they definitely needed someone, and this guy was very active, very productive at Appalachian State.
This guy is Joey Aguilar.
Yes, and I saw some clips of him, and obviously videos that are put out there are highlights. So we don't exactly see how he does when he's in a stressful situation and maybe he screws up. But anyway, but from the highlights, he looks pretty good. And hopefully if Tino Sunseri comes in and does more of a action-packed offense like Indiana did, as opposed to oppositely what UCLA did last year, I think that could be this could be a really good coming together, a good pairing.
Well, we have a report on Mr. Joey Aguilar that was sent to us from the Godfather, from his friend and App State guy, Tom Hastings. So thank you, Jim Mendat, always a resource. His cup never goes dry. Jim Mendat is passing this on from Tom Hastings, and it is about Aguilar, and it is, heard he was leaving. When he's on, he can be great, but he makes plenty of poor decisions. Was much better last year than this year, so that's not great. He takes too many risky throws, in my humble opinion, but he can be spectacular at times. That's good. And he says mobile with a decent arm. So that's our first take report on Joey Aguilar, and we will see how it goes. And I would say that if Sunseri is worth his salt as a coordinator, which the jury's still out on that, right? We think he's going to be good, but he's still got to be good to show it. It sounds like Aguilar's the type of guy that can flourish with a good offensive coordinator, right? You can work on the rough parts and accentuate the positives and limit the negatives.
Exactly.
So I'm actually kind of optimistic about that part of it. Okay. All right. Well, that's all the football talk we're going to do right now, and we'll come back and expand on that more next week when we haven't talked so much about Intuit Dome. But with that being said, Mike, it's Bill's favorite part of the show. What's brewing with you?
What's brewing with you? You ask me. What's brewing with me? Yeah. What's brewing with you? What's brewing with me? What's brewing with you?
Mikey.
What's up?
We're through the holiday season. What's brewing with you?
Yeah. No, I just had a really good break with my kids. Started everything off that Friday, but my last day of work. One of my coworkers is a jazz musician. Not coworkers.
Sweet.
One of the teachers that I work with is a jazz musician, very talented.
Sweet.
And he invited me to they have a block party every year. So I'm like, block party out in Culver City. So I get there and he goes, yeah, we make it, try to make it as best of a winter wonderland as they could. But yeah, they closed down this one street in Culver City, and they had like this an actual snow hill where kids like got sleds and snowed down it, sledded down it. There was like snow patches where you can like make snowballs, and kids were throwing it at each other. Food trucks, drinks, photo booths, disco balls in the middle of the street too, with the lights. But my friend Khalil, who is the jazz musician, just did all kind of like jazz Christmas covers, and it was really cool, really fun. But it was also my daughter's like birthday weekend, so that was a start to it. So I told her, like, let's do this, let's go out and have some fun. And then we went out to see Wicked, and I knew nothing about this. I knew. Oh, it's Wicked Smart. I knew just kind of what it was about generally, but I'm like, the girls wanted to see it. Violet wanted to see it for her birthday. So we go and see it, and I was freaking blown away. I actually really loved it. I'm a musical guy, and I don't know why I never, put, effort into this, but damn, I want to see the theatrical production now. Just a hell of a movie with the sound, obviously great soundtrack. And here's the thing, like modern pop singers, I'm just not into it, not attracted to them, not just their music. I'm just
Not even
out.
Lana Del Rey over there staring at you from
Okay,
my fridge.
I have to talk to you about that afterwards. That was
Not
damn,
Marina
yo.
Diamandis? Not Mitski? Not Lily Allen?
Well, I mean, you've told me about them, so that instantly those give clout. But I hear someone like Ariana Grande, Rihanna,
All right, get out of here with all that.
whatever.
But noobs.
But
Back to Nickelodeon.
like, okay, so the Ariana Grande character,
very talented.
Glinda, I hated her like the whole movie. I'm like, oh my god, this is annoying. And then it was towards the end where I was like, I started to get it. I was like, oh, she's supposed to be quirky. At that point, I actually really liked the character, and I really liked Ariana Grande. After that, we went into like this was like a week later. We're watching Saturday Night Live, and it was a repeat, but Ariana Grande was on there. She is so freaking funny. And I didn't know. My daughter's like, you didn't know that she was like kind of a comedy thing? She does singer impersonations. And so we went on a whole YouTube thing with that. Holy crap. I could not stop cracking up at some of the stuff that she put out. But either way, kind of a Grande? What like a Swiftie? I'm Grande? Kind of getting there.
Let's go.
Kind of like where she's at. But, long story short, it also with vacation, my sister came down from Salt Lake City with her family. And yeah, we just had a fantastic Christmas and New Year. So it was really good to see, to have the family together, especially my kids with my sister, all of my sister's kids, and my other sister's kids. So that was really fun. And they all it was funny. Like they all kind of like have all their phone numbers, but they're like, hey, text me this and text me this. I was like, oh,
that's fun.
Oh, so yeah, we had a really good New Year's at my sister's, and yeah, just something I think that's something we want to kind of do, going forward. But yeah, it was pretty productive. Just like having the kids, with no school, trying to figure out how to not have them bored and trying to figure out what to do each day. It was pretty action packed. So like I did get some rest, but I'm still tired. But still, Jake, what's wrong with you?
It's good, Mike. I'm glad you had a good time.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Mike, you watch Wicked, and my daughter Molly has watched it like 4 times since it came out. So definitely Wicked going on in our household. Then she took the other girls in the house to go see it.
Toss.
Yeah. Mike, in The Wizard of Oz, what was the natural disaster of note in The Wizard?
Tornado.
Yeah, they're in Kansas, right?
Yeah.
And there's literally houses falling on people.
Yes.
Little witch legs sticking out from underneath the house at some point in the movie.
You killed my sister.
Exactly right. So I'm hoping. We say we're going to podcast next week. We say there's going to be a What's Bruin show next week. But at this point, I'm a little worried. I just got an email notification in my mailbox this evening at 6:53 And it is LA City Emergency Alerts, an important message from the City of Los Angeles Notify LA system. And that is my area, the What's Bruin studios are in the North Valley of the Santa Ana Valley. It's telling me, and like I said, it's very windy up here regardless. Like we're no stranger to heavy winds, right? We've had some heavy wind days. But wind gusts are expected. Okay, this is an unexpected, destructive, widespread, and potentially life-threatening windstorm.
Yep.
Starting Tuesday morning through Wednesday afternoon in the city of Los Angeles. Wind gusts are expected to be 50 to 80 and reach 80 to 100 miles an hour.
Especially along the foothills
areas.
Yeah.
Which is where I effing live.
Basically from here to Pasadena, it's going to be hell.
And plus red flag fire weather conditions, yada, yada, yada. So don't.
Oh yeah, that too.
Don't be a anti-Smokey the Bear and light your cigarette and drive around and throw it into the ads. No campfires, please. But dude, 100-mile-an-hour winds.
That's crazy, dude.
But my house is gonna get. It's gonna end up, in friggin' Sherman Oaks. I'm a little worried about this, Mike.
Maybe the cost will go. Cost of your house will go up.
Batten down the effing hatches is all I'm saying. So.
Oh yeah. After this, I'm going home. I'm going to the backyard and putting stuff down. Like I have a lawn set with a nice umbrella in the middle. Yeah, I'm gonna have to bring that down. I'm gonna have to put stuff. Yeah.
So I mean, that's
yay.
I've lived here for 20 years now. And
would you rather have this or 20-degree 8 inches of snow, which is happening?
This.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you.
But my house hasn't blown off of its foundation yet. My house hasn't blown off its foundation yet.
Yeah.
And I said, we've lived here 20 years, and the worst part about living in this area is the wind, because like 30% of the year it's windy.
Yeah.
But it's generally strong wind. It could be, destructive wind to a degree, but not 100 mile an hour.
50 to 80.
100 mile.
Yeah.
No,
Stay safe,
hurricane
Jake. Stay
freaking
safe.
winds.
Yeah.
So, Mike, let's hope there's show. If there's not,
yeah, right.
You all know why. Okay,
Yeah.
so just FYI. But that's it. We'll come back next week. Talk how the basketball teams are doing. Talk a little more about the football team, the transfers, and all that stuff. And we'll see. If you got something to say about any of those things, call the hotline 805-399
4WBS.
4WBS. I could rain of Troy. And return my sweater. I'm going to need it with all this wind. But other than that, thanks for joining us. And it is a new year. It's 2025. And of course, as we know, nobody's more punk rock than us. The What's Bruin Show.
Hell no.
More punk than you.
Love that.
And until next time, go Bruins.
Go Bruins.
Good evening.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
That was the What's Bruin Show.
Try us tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel.
It's got to be in or out, Mom. In or out. Well, I need the door closed.
Thank you for your cooperation.
Dude, bro, we play some ball on the West Coast.
The final word is boob.